So Reddit, any sentence that starts with Reddit, you know it's going to be fun. The top question on the Cardano subreddit, which is quite a wonderful place, by the way,
Thank you.
was, can you get Charles to play devil's advocate against Cardano? If it's going to fail, what would failure look like, and what are the most likely reasons it would fail?
Okay, well, there's the failure. For example, I said one of the project goals was to achieve self-evolution. So if it doesn't achieve that, where it can evolve itself iteration by iteration, then obviously the product didn't do what was intended. Right? If it continuously required the supervision of custodians in order for it to succeed, the system just won't work. The good news is we have a lot of data showing the opposite. We used to run a federated model, and now we're completely decentralized for block production. But that didn't just happen overnight. I mean, there was a whole process with the incentivized testnet and the Stakepool Pioneers program and the launch of Shelley and the decrementing of the decentralization parameter. And every step of the way, people showed up and had to do things. And we went from several to thousands of people who were regularly maintaining the infrastructure. But there's no guarantee that that would be sustainable. And there's no guarantee that the next step, the smart contract step, will achieve what we want. And the next step, the governance step, will achieve what we want. I mean, it's an experiment on all these types of things. All cryptocurrencies, all companies are, in a sense, experiments when they are evolving the business model. And as our case, our business is systems and society. We're offering to the world a vision of how to run humanity in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way the system can do that is by millions of people joining the system, self-evolving the system, and growing it in that particular direction. Another failure scenario would be the system evolves in the wrong direction. So it's self-evolving, but it goes into a more centralized dystopian way, and that's problematic as well.
What would that look like? What would dystopia, self-evolution toward dystopia look like?
A small group of actors have total control over who gets to use the system and how they get to use the system, and your use of the system is monitored and shared with that small group of actors. So social credit in China is a great example of that. A small group of people have access to that, and then your experience in Chinese society is determined by it. So that's an example of a failure mode. And then another could be just network effect. We start experiencing a churn rate, and the inputs don't match the outputs, and that you lose more than you gain, and then over time the system dies off. However, that's really hard in practice. Once you reach a certain network effect, even if you become stagnant and stale, you tend not to lose your users. And our evangelism is unbelievable in the Cardano community. I think we're number one for tattoos. And that's, if you think about that, it's a strange metric to have, but there are brands that associate that way, like Apple and Harley Davidson and so forth. People tend to actually tattoo the logo. Those people don't leave. They don't actually walk away from the ecosystem. They're fanboys to the core.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people that are here for life. They don't care if it's dollar ADA, 2 cent ADA. They believe in the mission, vision, and value of what we wish to achieve, and they've become evangelists in that respect. So the question is, does that community sustain itself? And also, does that community not make the same sins and mistake of Bitcoin, where they become toxic and maximalistic, and they start becoming highly religious about whatever beliefs they have? My hope is our community will be open and Socratic and love the scientific method and be willing to entertain ideas without adopting them and discard ideas that are proven to be wrong. If we become dogmatic and embrace an orthodoxy that is counterproductive to innovation, then it'll stall out the ecosystem. And you'll notice I never said price in any of this. I never said, hey, failure is if the price goes way down and success is if the price goes way up. That's unfortunately the metric that most people use, but I couldn't care less about it. Because, if the reality is, if you construct a system that encompasses the entire globe and has billions of users, it's probably going to be a pretty valuable system. That's a secondary thing. It's an after effect of having success in adoption, use, and utility. Unfortunately, most people on Reddit and Twitter and other channels, they tend to just judge your entire success based on that. I had very few people when Shelley launched, even though it took us 4 years to get there, a lot of work, say congratulations on Shelley. But I had a lot of people when ADA reached the dollar say, we're so proud of you, amazing work, congratulations, and so forth. And that's probably the most disheartening thing about the whole being around and doing this stuff, where all the things you do only matter as long as it's making someone else rich. And And in a way, I feel almost like a failure, because that mindset means that we haven't yet inculcated the community in a proper way, saying, hey guys, this is about more than money. It's about more than the value of ADA. What we're attempting to do here is re-engineer the way society works. I'd like your voting to be different. I'd like your property to be different. I'd like you on your cell phone to have a universal wallet. And when you go to Starbucks or wherever, you can buy your coffee with silver or gold or airline miles or something like that, and they get paid whatever the hell they want to get paid. And I want those rails to be done with a system that puts you in charge, not someone else. And they say, yeah, that's all fine and great. As long as ADA is $5, we're all happy. You see, so that's a problem. There are, of course, other things that could fail. Like, we could lose project cohesion. Lots of people could quit and die. But again, there's so much momentum. There's so many things here. The ideas are already out there. And there's no intellectual property. When you publish 100 papers, you write 1 million lines of code. That's something, and it's permanent. And it's in the commons now. So it's just as much yours as it is mine. So there's no notion that somehow, if the core development company disappeared, then that concept is lost forever, like the Library of Alexandria burning to the ground. It's there, and someone else will take it, fork it, and get it done.
So, I mean, first of all, that's fascinating. The self-evolution, you don't know which trajectories that's going to take. But also there could be singular events, like bugs in the system create an opportunity to hack the system. Is that something that you see as a potential failure case?
Yeah, it's always a possibility. Bugs can exist. There can be flaws in the protocol design. Zcash was a great example of that, where there was a subtle flaw and it damaged the fidelity of the cryptocurrency in ways no other cryptocurrency has ever experienced. Normally, when you have a bug, the bug, you can see it, like the Bitcoin overflow, the value overflow incident. Yes, Bitcoin can be created, but we can verify they weren't. So the monetary policy is preserved. When you have a bug with a private system like Zcash and it exists on the shielded side, there's no guarantee, unless you can audit the total supply inside that shielded side. My understanding is you can't, that somebody didn't exploit the bug and create trillions of these coins out of thin air, just hiding them on that system and dripping them out. And so the monetary policy is forever damaged as a consequence of a bug like that. It's probably the worst type of bug you can have for these types of products. So, no matter how good of a job you do, they have great scientists, there are great people there, great engineers there. You can always have something like that seep its way in, leak its way in, and that lurks in the distance. But, if that's a problem shared with every one of your neighbors,
That's true.
It's like everybody working on a nuclear power plant. Well, yeah, you can all die of radiation poisoning. Well, we all kind of knew that, didn't we? So
Yeah.
so it's like I don't really think too much about it. I think the context of the question was more, what is Cardano specific over Ethereum or Bitcoin or any of these other things? And yeah, okay, an existential lurking bug could happen. It's lower probability for us than the other systems because we use formal methods and we use peer review inside the protocol design. So there's been more eyeballs and tools and techniques used to check things. And we actually have discovered a lot of weird, wonky bugs before production and resolved those bugs. So it shows you the system works. It's a lot of fun.